Hello and welcome. I have with me Mr. Savio Rodrigues, founder and editor-in-chief of Goa Chronicle. Savio, thank you very much for joining us on Republic TV.
Always a pleasure to be on Republic.
Savio, one of the most burning questions, so to say, of the week that's gone by is the Wall Street Journal's report on the Air India crash. And it very conveniently, so to say, blamed pilots, the human error for the crash that happened without arguably getting into the intricacies of the report or to have a substance to back the argument with. And that has raised several doubts about if the Western media is actually biased towards India. What's your take on this?
I believe that the Western media has always been biased towards India. India, over the centuries, by Western India, has been portrayed as a land of snake charmers. I think what they are not able to grasp at this point of time with New India under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi is that India is not a land of snake charmers. India is a land of people that are now taming the dragons around the world. Okay? What is happening in India? India is seeing economic growth. India is seeing social growth. India is seeing political cohesiveness happening. That is something that is not digestible to the Western world. Political cohesiveness, socio-economic growth brings about a unified approach towards a nation. People start thinking, people start believing, people start hoping that the country is progressing. With progress, people progress. That is something that has frightened the Western world. The opposition parties are weak. The opposition parties try to do whatever they can to disturb that equilibrium that exists. But they're not able to create a dent in the rise of India. India is going to rise as Bharat. India is rising as Bharat at this point of time. Why is that happening? You know, one of the things, because as a person who lived abroad for a considerable amount of my life, we always felt a little down when it came to India when looking at it with the rest of the world. Today, that Atma Vishwas has come in primarily because we are now getting to be Atma Nirbhar. And that is what is changing the geopolitical situation in India. That is changing the geopolitical situation across the world. But most importantly, it's brought in a belief in the people in India. Even a common man believes today that India will progress, and because of India's progress, he and his family is going to progress. So the Western media is against it. They don't want India to rise. Let's be clear about that. Okay. For them, Modi is not the danger. Modi is just a political leader to them who's inspiring the people of India. Their real problem is with India rising as Bharat, because it becomes the cultural resurgence of India that they are afraid of. Because you will not think as a Muslim or a Hindu or a Christian or a Sikh or a Jain. You're not going to think belonging to a particular caste as a Brahmin or somebody that's a Kshatriya. You're thinking as an Indian. And that is something that they cannot see. So while they try religion, while they try caste, they have now started to look at language as a form of dividing India based on languages. But that's not going to work as well. So I believe the Western media will continue to do that. India, the Indians in India and Indians abroad know the real face of the Western media. Some are gullible and fall for it. But largely, most Indians are nationalists, irrespective of their religion and their caste. What makes them look at India right now in a promising manner is that there is a government that listens to them and there is a government that is working for them.
My question then is, I mean, media, so to say, is words primarily, but who are the masters behind these words? I mean, let's take an example of a Wall Street Journal. Fine, there is a report, there is a language that report is using, which is perceived as anti-India, but who are the people behind these, so to say, walls who want India's fall?
So India's biggest enemy is not Pakistan, it's not China, it's not US. It is the deep state. And the deep state does not have any country. All they have are common interests. So India today is a huge, huge market. It's an economic activity. The deep state's targeting of India is driven by an economic interest. For that economic interest, they will create political turmoil. they will create social turmoils, they will create economic turmoils. At the end of the day, deep state is about money. Today, they will partner with China, they will partner with the US, they will partner with Pakistan, they will partner with Iran, they will partner with people within India. That ensures that the legacy or the agenda of the deep state continues within India. Right. How does a person abroad look at India? Let's be clear on that. Numbers. India's biggest asset is the population. True. Today, if we look at India today, and some of the things that I tell the government as well, is why are we backward as far as technology is concerned? We don't have a browser that is our own. We don't have a social media network that is our own. Why is it that a country that has some of the best brains as far as technology is concerned are not building in that space? We don't have AI that is our own that we can call. Look at the revolution that's happening in the tech space. 5 to 10 years from now, this world is going to be about AI. Are we AI proficient as a country? The answer is no. So you're going to see these companies, you're going to see the likes of Facebook, Twitter, and various other, what I call as the new East India Company, trying to put its tentacles into India and trying to control it. It's time for us to bring nationalistic agenda in the open right now, to bring technology companies that stick to nationalistic agendas in order for us to control the narrative. At the end of the day, it's a narrative game, no? Today, for example, if there's something negative written about the Christian community, it is not me who's getting that information first. It is my mother who's getting that information first on the WhatsApp. And then I get a call from my mother and my aunties telling me, listen, there's some negative saying Christians are in danger in India. And then I'll have to sit and reason and counter that this is the real truth behind that information. The whole idea is using technology. The new East India Company will use technology to the maximum to control the narrative. And therefore, institutions like the Republic, with their digital reach, must break this narrative. Right. If you look at CAA, if you look at the communications that happened during the farm laws, did we as India control the narrative? The answer is no. We did not control the narrative. There were ads that were put out by foreign newspapers, like the New York Times, that were sponsored by people who were terror sympathizers that time. Yeah. But did the Americans do anything about it? Even today, Donald Trump, as the president, keeps talking about a deal that happened between India and Pakistan, which India has clearly denied. Yeah. So why is Donald Trump as a president continuing 23 times with the same statement? Absolutely. So he's trying to build a narrative. At the end of the day, whether it is Donald Trump or whether it was Biden or whether it's anybody else who sits in Pakistan, the fact of the matter is they're all elements of deep state. And as long as deep state exists around the world, India is going to be a target. They will want to divide India on various parameters, and therefore the nationalistic agenda is the most important. The only way you can connect this country is by taking religion out, taking caste out, and looking at each and every one of us as nationalists and as Indians. Once you bring that thought process in this country, we are a country that is going to go way beyond, number 3 as far as economy is concerned. We're going to go higher than that.
True, very true. In fact, one of the, we were talking to the pilots body after the Wall Street Journal. I'm bringing back to the same report. And they said that we have planned to file a notice against Wall Street Journal. Now, that's something of a technical bit of a problem there, because we don't know which court they will file that in. My question to you is, what would then be the right way to counter this narrative?
Why is Wall Street working on a narrative that is targeting the pilots? We have to understand the genesis of it. The genesis of it is Boeing, the aircraft, right? Now, Boeing's history has its own questions, but Boeing is an American company. Boeing wants to sell aircrafts to the rest of the world. Why would they want to accept the blame? Right? They would want to put the blame on the pilots because the pilots no longer exist. And therefore, they are the easy sitting ducks to put the blame on. Right. Every one of the single largest foreign company that has come into India is not come with an India first approach or a nation first approach. Right. They are come with the approach of their business and the country those businesses come from. Today, Donald Trump is talking a lot about the deal primarily because on April 26, he did a crypto deal with Pakistan. And tomorrow, with the fact that the dollar is going down and you have the de-dollarization happening, where do you think America is going to go towards? They're going to move towards crypto. And Pakistan is going to become a hub as far as crypto is concerned, because whether you look at UAE, whether you look at Pakistan itself, they're all working in the cryptocurrency space because that's going to be the currency of the future. Are we in that space? Not yet. That's going to be the new currency of the future. Russia is in crypto. Why is the American president's family connected to Pakistan? On April 26, just before the Pahalgam terror attack and our retaliation on Operation Sindoor, there was a tie-up between Donald Trump's family's company and Pakistan's cryptocurrency company over there. Why did that happen? What is the deal that Donald Trump is talking about? Why does he continue to lie? He continues to lie because it drives that narrative. The opposition leaders in India continue to believe the President of the United States more than the Prime Minister of India or the Indian government. Why is that? So you have some people who are Jayachands right in our country. That's the problem.
So what are those areas that India as a country needs to work on in order to build that narrative or counter that narrative?
India's biggest problem, in my opinion, coming from the media, is that India does not have a good communication system within India and outside of India. Because India still continues to be dominated by Western narrative. Therefore, the Indian government, Indian media companies like the Republic must be able to take the information about India global. Until you do that, the West will. You think an average American cares about India? He doesn't. But we care about what to show about Donald Trump. Why? Who is Donald Trump to us? Why should we care about Donald Trump? Why should we care about what happens in America? America should care about what happens in India. But they don't show that. So we continue in certain quarters of our thought process, think that we are still slaves of the West. I think that narrative has to change to the opposite, where we say, listen, the West is where it's supposed to be, the East is where it's supposed to be, and India will be where it has to be. It's as simple as that. Today, we need to control the narrative. The narrative is that India is rising as Bharat. Bharat is the destiny of India, whether anybody accepts it or not. There might be lots of people who might disagree with what I'm saying. I really don't care if you disagree. Okay? What was Bharat and what is Bharat? Bharat is a collective consciousness of people that cohesively live together to prosper and to see our children's future. That is Bharat. It's embedded in the principles of Sanatana Dharma. It's embedded that we find godliness in each and every one of us, in the work that we do. There is no division based on religion or caste or whichever state you come from. Today, people in Tamil Nadu have been talking about language, but Sanatana Dharma principles are more enshrined in the people in Tamil Nadu because they are more spiritual as well. Right? But you have a set of politicians that want to divide them based on that fact that no, we have to eradicate Sanatana Dharma. How can you eradicate Sanatana Dharma? When it's the very existence of life, when people of Tamil Nadu actually are enshrined with that belief. So the idea is we have our own Jayachands, we have our own rats within our system that want to gnaw at the reality of us, our country. The reality of our country is Bharat. And I'm saying this over and over again. There is nobody in India or outside of India that can stop the rise of India as Bharat. Prime Minister Modi has started it. People like Savio Rodrigues, Arnab, Goswami, you will take it forward. There is no stopping India. The only time India will be stopped is when people like us stop believing that India is Bharat. Many people think that I'm being, radical in my thoughts. No, I'm not. I'm not being radical. I'm telling you the truth. Unless we get that Bharatiya belief in us, we will continue to be the slaves of Western power who till today believe that they can control India. Donald Trump today as the president, who's supposed to be a friend of India, what is he interested in? Do you think he's interested in India? No. He's interested in the business he can get out of India. He's interested in the fact that India is a huge market that his capitalist friends can gain out of it. He wants to tariff India so that he benefits out of it. That is Donald Trump. But he's not working in India's interest, and therefore India has to work in its own interest. You have NATO that toes Donald Trump's line, saying they want to sanction India. For what? For doing the right thing? India has to take a balance between Russia, China, and America. It doesn't mean it has to go and sit in the lap of America. And who is Donald Trump? Today, Donald Trump is there. Maybe 6 months down the road, Donald Trump is not there. Where is America today? America or Europe cannot control the fact of what is happening into India country. Islamic radicalization is going to destroy them. Are they bothered? But you will see all over, if there's a small incident that happens to the minorities, it is the Hindus that are demonized. Has anybody demonized Islamic radicalism? What is happening in Europe? What is happening in America? India will not allow Islamic radicalism to grow because we are a nation of people who believe in Sanatan Dharma. Islamic radicalization is not Islam. Let me say that. There are very good Muslims in India who stand for this country, who die for this country. But there is a very, very evil demonic strain that we saw in Israel on October 7th. That kind of Islamic radicalization is happening all over the world, and the West is going to face a very strong consequence of that. India, however, because of Sanatan Dharma and the way it deals with it, has managed to keep that at bay. And yet you might have some issues, some people coming up and saying minorities are danger. I am an Indian Christian. I am a minority, a far lower minority than the Muslims themselves. There are Jews, there are Parsis, there are Jains, there are Sikhs. But I'm not afraid of living in India, no? A lot of people say, that the minorities are in danger. The Christians are in danger. The BJP, the RSS are tormenting us, oppressing us. The sad part is, majority of the minorities, they put this mindset in the minorities to think that you are not the special child of Bharat Mata, right? But what they have not realized, and what I believe, is that I'm neither a minority nor a majority. I'm just the son of Bharat Mata. And a mother does not distinguish between her children. So every citizen of this country, every child of this country is a beloved son and daughter of Mother India. No matter what any political leader tells you. So you might come and tell me you're an Indian Christian, but you're a minority. I might be minority in the law, but in the heart I'm the son of Bharat Mata, and that nobody can change. No person in the majority, no person in the minority. So India's narrative has to be that. India's narrative has to be nationalism. India's narrative has to be nationalistic businesses. India's narrative has to be businesses that are centered on nationalism, that go and conquer other parts of the world with our knowledge. We don't want brain drain. We want the brain from that to come to us. Most of the, look at UAE, for example, okay? Everybody is going to the UAE right now. There was a time when many people went to the UAE. Who built UAE? Was it not our people? Yeah. Was it not the Indians? Why can't we bring those brains back into India? Why can we not create an atmosphere in India for our people to return back so that they can invest into India, they can build? Everybody says that, oh, look at the West, look at the lives of the people in the West, look at the way the economic growth is, look at their infrastructure. You think we cannot have that? Today we have a government that has a political will to do that. It needs to tighten itself a little more, but we will get there. We have the brains, we have the intelligence, but most of all, we have the intent. If we don't have the political will to become far better than what we are, to be a superpower, we will never get there. Today when we look at segments like defense, we look at segments as startups, we keep wondering, are we going to get there? I believe we will, if we understand and don't ape the West. You get political leaders who come to places like Goa and say, we want to turn Goa into Shanghai, we want to turn Goa into Macau. But Goa is Goa, no?
Yeah.
turn Goa into Goa.
Oh.
You don't need to become a Shanghai or Macau. We don't want to be that. But the problem is we are always aping the West. We want to turn and be like the West.
True.
But we are good on our own.
True.
Do you think a woman wearing a sari or a man wearing a kurta is any different from a woman wearing a dress or a suit? That is our identity. That's who we are. We are Bharatiya, and we should be proud about that. We don't, you have a lot of our kids wanting to ape the West. They believe in the West.
Yeah.
The future tomorrow is going to be AI. They're going to say, we don't have a God itself. AI is our God.
Yeah.
Are we ready for that world? That narrative starts there. The narrative starts when you become self-sufficient within yourself. You actually and truly become Atmanirbhar. Atmanirbhar or Make in India is not a slogan. It is actually a belief system and an ecosystem that you create so that your children and the ones existing now in the future believe and take this country forward, because the leaders of the future will emerge from here.
True.
We don't want a puppet controlled by the deep state like some of the opposition leaders are, who signed MOUs with China way back a couple of years ago and then dictate terms that, how India's relationship with China is, and never make that MOU public.
Absolutely.
Right? So you have leaders like that. You have leaders like that who go out on visits that people don't know where they are going.
Yeah.
These are the political leaders you have. You have political leaders who suddenly feel that Donald Trump is God. Yeah. And whatever Donald Trump has said about what the Indian army said is far more important
Than what the army is saying itself.
Right? I believe there is nothing that can change the destiny of India rising at Bharat. I'm saying that over and over again. The Bharatiya economic model, there is a Bharatiya economic model that this government will slowly put in place. And that Bharatiya economic model is the model that will hold us sway and take us to where we want to as a superpower. The Bharatiya economic model is based on the principles that are enshrined within the Sanatana Dharma beliefs and how we can create an economic activity around. I'll give you an example, and I'm sorry I'm taking a lot of your time.
No, that's absolutely fine.
So Goa used to have a concept called the Comunidad system, which is a village republic system, where the village looks after you, right? That is not a Portuguese idea, which we flaunt. Many people in Goa flaunt it. It's a Portuguese Comunidad. The word is a Portuguese word. But the principle of the Comunidad or the village republic system comes from the Vedas itself, wherein a village becomes responsible for every person that is born inside the village. So every village has a skill, or the person within that village has a skill. So when they are born, they give them this 300 square meters of land, which is called the Bhat, where once he gets married, he can, they give him that land and he can live with his wife, grow his vegetables. People within that village who have been in that construction space come and build his house at a low cost, and it becomes a complete community living. Okay. The Vedas at that point of time brought this out, and Goa used to follow it, and then the Portuguese adapted it. Right? Now, of course, it has its own ups and downs going on in that system. But what is the purpose of telling you that? That the Vedic economic system that existed before, which we have forgotten, and it's a knowledge that we need to bring back, was driven by community living, where communities self-sustained itself. So when for example, in our current system, a panchayat becomes economically viable, then panchayats together make a constituency economically viable. That constituency merges with other constituencies and makes a state economically viable.
Correct.
So it's a very micro, bottom-up approach to economic growth.
Right.
The problem is the Western model has always been a top-down approach.
Right.
The Vedic model has always been a down-up approach to what you call economic growth. For example, if you look at what you see around the West, and you see the kind of debt society that they have created for the world, and this world is living in debt.
They've been rising their debt ceiling every year.
Today, that's the same thing they're doing in India, no?
Yeah.
We're continuing to create a debt society.
Credit.
The states are in debt.
Yeah.
The people are in debt because they're always taking loans and all that. The Bharatiya model was never about so much of debt. It was self-sufficiency. that you would live within the means that you have, and the society balanced you. The society took care of you, and that's why it was an economic model. I believe that it's important now, and I believe this is going to happen, that the intellectuals within the government, the intellectuals within the Sangh that is there, will focus on a Bharatiya economic model so that we can fight with the West. The West doesn't need to teach us. We don't need to learn from the West. Let me say that openly, and I don't care what any of the CI or deep state thinks. The West needs to learn from us. The Eastern philosophy with India at the top of it is going to govern the socio-economic and political processes of the future. And that's the reality.
And the revival is already underway.
We are on a resurgence. India is rising as Bharat. I'm telling you, मेरे अंदर ये खुशी जो है, it's incredible because I can see it. I can see it. People don't see it. The world wants to tell you that India is a bad place. The world wants to tell you that, India is still a third world country. The world wants to tell you that, India is only about its stupid Bollywood and, dances, and there is no economic revival happening. And yes, there is some strains. That's not India. India is an India that is rising, where people today have disposable incomes with them. But more importantly, it's a thinking India. And India, but can we create enough opportunities to keep them here? That's going to be the challenge, that people will want to take our skills, which is what they've done for so long, and utilize them in other countries. We need to find a way to keep our skills, our brains here, and utilize them for India. India has to deal with only one thing. One thing, if it has to rise as Bharat, is to get rid of corruption. And that has been Prime Minister Modi's main aim, is to ensure that corruption is ended from India. But it is going to be a challenge, and it will always be a challenge because it's systemic. Once that happens, India will rise undoubtedly faster than it's doing right now.
Wonderful. Savio, thank you very much. Just makes us realize how sometimes the answers to what looks like a narrative are far deeper than, and can be so much of a transformational in the long run, so to say. Thank you very much for the analysis you gave us. Thanks.
My pleasure.